Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? Today I'll be doing a sneaker drawing in the Nike Air Presto Off-White Black, as well as talking about the upcoming coloring book that is now available for pre-order, the HypeBeast coloring book. I will have the pre-order up until February 7th, so make sure you cop yours while the deal is still there. Don't forget you can find this sneaker coloring page as well as hundreds more available on my website, KicksArt.com. Also, if you ever used one of my sneaker coloring pages from my website, you want to listen to what I have to say later on in the video because I have a pretty big update as it relates to that. And then finally, I'll be talking about the current project I'll be working on prior to starting my next coloring book. And with all that being said, let's get it! Before I get into the main topics of today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Now, if you're not familiar, Skillshare is an online learning community where it offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people alike. These classes cover a variety of topics which include illustration, graphic design, photography, UX UI design, creative writing, animation, fine art, music, film and video, marketing, productivity, freelance, crafts, and more. So essentially, if you're creative in any sense of the word and you're looking to level up your skills in whatever discipline you're in, Skillshare has you covered. And it's great for all skill levels, whether you're a beginner, a pro, a master, a dabbler, anything in between. You can be diving deeper into a skill to really hone your craft or exploring the basics with something entirely new. For graphic designers, I highly recommend Aaron Draplin's logo design course to really help understand the basics of designing a logo. And for the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description, you will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium free. Afterwards is less than $10 a month. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video. Now, finally, after 2 months of hard work, the HypeBeast coloring book is now available to pre-order. You can find the book off my website, shop.kicksart.com, the link is in my bio, as well as you can find it off Amazon if you prefer to get it sooner. Keep in mind though, when you buy it off of Amazon, you're only getting the book itself, whereas if you buy it directly off of my website, I include the free bookmark, the free stickers, all the good stuff. Plus, it's $5 cheaper until the pre-order period ends anyway, so. And actually, when the pre-order period ends, I have to go and update a few of the existing listings that I have. For example, I currently have the 2-pack listing which right now just shows one of each book. However, now I'm gonna have 3 books, so I have to change it to say pick any 2. And the way you go about picking is either writing me an email of your choices or sending me a DM through Instagram, because at the moment, for whatever reason, there's not an easy, simple way for me to create just a drop-down menu for you to pick the ones that you want. I know it's really confusing. But then again, I won't deny the possibility that maybe it is really easy and I just haven't looked into it properly, so I don't know, I'll put it on my list to look into. And that will ultimately take place around the 7th, which is when I should get the books in, which is why the pre-order period will end right there. Either way, if you follow me on Instagram, at KicksArt, you will be notified. Now, here's a very interesting story that's going to give you some really cool behind the scenes look of what it's like to run this kind of business. So if you have ever saved one of the sneaker coloring pages off of my website, you'll know that the way I instructed you to do so was to literally save the image onto your phone or desktop. And when I build these pages, I have a template, so all of those pages pretty much have the same thing going on. They have the same layout, so you know what to expect, which is how it stays consistent. Well, about a few weeks ago, I was emailed by somebody who was using one of my coloring pages to try to do some digital art on Photoshop, and he noticed that whenever he zoomed in, the image would start to get really pixelated. So he had asked to see if there were higher res versions of these images that I could send him directly so that way he could test out his concept for the shoe. And the reason why I thought that was interesting, because when I create the files for these pages, I create them at a pretty high quality, so that way you can even double the size or triple the size of the image and it still should come out pretty sharp. So for this person to email me saying, hey, I'm trying to zoom in on the image when I opened it in Photoshop and it's looking really thick, can you help me out? I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird because I wouldn't imagine this problem to be happening. So I go into the website, I start looking around the backend components, I start looking at all the images that I have uploaded, and I look at the file sizes, and so far everything seems to be looking fine. I go into one of the main pages, the Jordan 1 page, I look at the image, I double check to make sure the file size is correct, and yep, everything still seems to be looking fine. However, it was at that moment I realized something. Every time that I myself have ever printed one of my sneaker coloring pages, it was not going through my website like I told everybody else to do. It would be because I have those raw files in my computer. I have everything organized in my folders already, so it was much quicker to do it that way. I would never have to go through the website. So I decided to print out one of the coloring pages off my website like somebody else would do it by going over one of the images, saving it to the desktop, and then printing it off my printer. And to my surprise, there was a difference in quality. Like literally 10 times the difference in quality. The images that I create, the ones that I've been using whenever I print them out, are about 1 to 1.3 megabyte. But when you save the images that are on my website, they only save at a max at about 100 kilobytes, maybe less than that. So then sure enough, when I go to print out one of the sneaker coloring pages off my website the way somebody else would, and when I compared it to the one that I normally printed out myself, there was a bit of a difference. On this new version, all the lines, the typography, everything is a little fuzzy and blurry. Even what's supposed to be the lettering, you know, a box, a regular square box is a little blurry around the edge. Now, if you're just printing these on standard sheets of paper and you don't know what the actual high quality version is supposed to look like, which is nobody else except me, then they're fine. The detail is still there. Yeah, it's a little bit blurry, but it's almost to the point where if you don't know that it's blurry, you wouldn't be able to really tell that it's blurry. But then sure enough, I pulled one of those images into Photoshop, and the moment I start to zoom in, everything gets extremely blurry. And to me, this is like not what I wanted to happen at all. The whole point of having these images up on the website was that they were high quality, so that way anybody, whether you were just printing them off yourself or if you were bringing them into Photoshop and do crazy digital enhancements to it, it would be super easy to have these crisp, clean files. Like now I'm genuinely asking myself how anybody was able to make digital work with these things. It's like the quality isn't really there. So after many hours of research and digging, I ultimately came to the conclusion that no matter what happens, whenever I have an image that I post directly onto the website that somebody else can view and save, the resolution is going to be capped to a certain point, so it's never going to look how I intended it to upload. And now what started off as an interesting problem is progressively getting a lot more interesting, because initially it's like, okay, I have over 1,000 individual images on my website that are a tenth of the quality that I thought they were. And there is nothing I can seemingly do to make it so that way the image that you see when you're scrolling onto that particular page and you're looking at that shoe, that when you right click and save or just hold your button on your phone and save the image, that it won't be the same size that I intended it to be when I uploaded it. Which means that anybody who has been using my website at any point at all that has saved the images the way that I've told them to do so has been saving an image that is a tenth of the quality that it actually should be, and they don't even know it. And yet despite all that, the website has been progressively doing much better over the years. So, you know, regardless of whatever mental breakdown I had during that moment realizing all of that, at the end of the day, it just came up to me as an opportunity. See, when I relaunched this website initially, I think it was back in 2018, I always wanted to have download buttons above the photos of the images themselves, so that way it was like very easy to download the image. But at the time I didn't know how to do that, which is why I went with the just save the image onto your desktop or mobile device plan. Now that solution did work, granted not as much as I wanted it to, clearly with everything that's happened since, but it didn't allow me one key thing that I really wanted to know from the very beginning. See, when it comes to the analytics on my website, I can see how many people go on a particular post per day, but what I can't see is how many people actually save that image per day. Let's take the Air Jordan 1 post for example. Within that Air Jordan 1 post, you have the regular shoe, you have the same shoe with 4 on the same page, and then you have like another 8 different models. So that's 11 different images just on that one page. Normally, I would just be able to see how many page views that particular page gets, but I wouldn't be able to have any information on which of those particular photos of those 11 images were saved the most. So after doing some more research, I was eventually able to figure out the proper solution in creating a good download button that would exist atop of every single image, so that way when you click on it, it automatically starts that particular download. And this is great too, because now I can actually track to see which individual sneaker coloring pages are the most popular and which ones are being used. And when you hit the blue download button, it downloads the high quality version, not the tenth of the quality version that you would have normally saving the image the other way. Plus it's easier, it's just hitting the button and you don't have to right click or do anything crazy like that. So here is the caveat though, I have about 1,000 images on the website, so that means that I have to create a button for each of those 1,000 images. I did some quick maths, I looked at how long it would take me to actually go through, and if I did a certain amount of pages per day, how many days it would take for me to go through and re-update the entire website with all the images having download buttons. And at this pace, I will have the entire website completely updated by mid-March. Look, it's gonna take some time. I've already gone through the entire Jordan tab. I'm working on going through the Nike tab right now, and then I'm gonna do some Kobe's and LeBron's afterward. All of the off-whites are already done too, so there's that. Look, it's a one-man job. This is gonna take time, but honestly, I'm happy to do it. It's given me another opportunity to also go through and update the SEO for the images as well, which is really helpful. And one last thing before I wrap up today's video, the thing I'm gonna be working on prior to starting my next coloring book, which I'll release information on that for the following video, is that I'm gonna be creating an entire section on my site dedicated to educational resources. And the first set of resources I plan on creating are gonna be graphic design themes. So these are gonna be different guides that cover the basic principles like color theory, layout, composition, so on and so forth. All of these are gonna be branded with sneakers in mind, so that way it's gonna fit within the KicksArt theme of what I make. And ultimately, I think they're gonna be really cool and helpful, especially for you guys that wanna get into the basics of graphic design. But that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed today's content, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. I have a ton of other projects that I'm currently working on that I can't wait to drop later on. I hope you all have a good day, be kind to others, wash your hands, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.